Hello, this is Professor Urbis White. Today we will deal with subtracting real numbers. Real numbers are numbers that can be signed, they can be fractions, they can be irrational, rational numbers. Anything goes. Anything that does not have an I, the imaginary portion in it, is a real number. So let's get started. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple of examples on the number line. Here's the middle of the number line. And let's have a scale, 1, 2, 3, and -1, -2, -3. And we are going to start with 3.5, so it is about here. When you see positive or you don't see anything, that implies a positive. When you see positive, you go right. When you see negative, you go left. Okay, let's try that. 3.5, so I am to the right, 3.5 steps. And then I see a negative. I'm going to go back 2.5 steps. 1, 2, 2.5 steps. And let's see, I was at 3.5, and then I came back 2.5, and then I'm going to end up at 1. Okay, the next one. So again, I do the same thing. I go to the right 2 steps. 1, 2. This is 3, 2.5. I go left 3.5 steps. 1, 2, 3.5 steps. I will end up at -1. Alright, so you can actually visualize this. You don't have to draw a number line each time, but you can visualize this while you're doing these operations. What happens when I have two negatives? So I'm subtracting a negative from a negative. And I have a -1, -2, -3, -4, and so forth. So I'm going to go 3.5 steps. I'm around here. I'm going to go another 2.5 steps. That's going to end up with around here, around -6. So I go left 3.5 and another 2.5. I end up with -6. What happens when I have a double negative? When I have a double negative, I just do change that immediately to positive. Also, you can watch the integers module to see that. So I go to the left 3.5 steps. This is -1, -2, -3. This is -4. So I go to the left. I'm here. Then I'm going to come back 2.5 steps. Where am I going to end up? Come back 2.5 steps. I'm going to be short a little bit. I'm going to end up at -1. So the way you do this, you take the difference of these two numbers, and the difference is 1, and the sign is going to be with the bigger number. So 3.5 is bigger than 2.5, so the sign is going to be negative. All right? So let's do some more. What happens when I have absolute values? You have to kind of remember that. Absolute value means distance away from 0. -3.5 means I am around here. How far away am I from 0? I am about 3.5 steps away. How about this one? 2.5. How far away from 0 am I? I am 2.5 steps away. So this problem actually became 3.5 minus 2.5. And when you do this without the absolute values, you're supposed to go to the right and then left. Now I go to the right 3.5 steps and come back 2.5 steps. I'm going to end up around at 1. So remember, if you do it without visualizing it, what you need to do, you need to take the difference between these two numbers, and the sign is going to be going with the bigger number. 3.5 is bigger, so you're going to end up with a +1. Let's do this one. Again, remove the absolute values first. That's going to give you 2.5. This one will give you 3.5, and you're going to have a negative that comes from here. So what does that mean? You're going to go to the right 2.5, left 3.5. Where are you going to end up? You're going to end up, first of all, in the negative area, and take the difference between these two. The difference is 1, but since this number is bigger, it's going to be negative. All right? Okay, now, the sign numbers also includes fractions. So when you have the fractions, you pretty much kind of go and do what you used to do with the fractions. You have 5, since it is like fractions. You have 3 minus 4 on top. So difference is 1. This is bigger, so it's negative. And you leave the denominator alone. How about this one? Now this one, again, like fractions, you have a negative 3 and negative 4. Remember how you used to do two negative numbers? You go to the left and left more. So that means you're going to end up with 7 steps to the left, 5. So it doesn't matter if you have a positive or a negative. You pretty much do them, handle them the way you handle any fraction. Now, when you see double negative, remember you change it. So let's go and change that double negative to, let me go to the left so that we see everything. Negative 3/5. Double negative is positive 4/5. That gives you negative 3, positive 4. And the difference is 1. And since this is bigger, it's going to be positive 1/5. All right? Okay, right along. Now, what happens when I have mixed numbers? Now, when I have mixed numbers, so I'm subtracting two negative numbers, so I'm going to the left. So I'm going to add those numbers to the left, but I need to pay attention to the fractions. So I'm going to put 2 and 1/7 here, and 1 and 1/14. I know that I'm supposed to go to the left, so just go to the side and match the denominators. So you have 2 and 2/14 by multiplying top and bottom by 2. 1 and 1/14. And when you add 2 and 1, and you add 2 and 1 here. So you end up with 3 and 3/14. But since it was a negative to the left, another negative to the left, you're going to end up with negative 3 and 3/14. Does it make sense? All right, what happens when I have a double negative? Again, the same way, this double negative turns into positive. That means what I'm going to do, I'm supposed to take the difference between 2 and 1/7 and 1 and 1/14. Since this number is bigger, so it's going to end up negative. But the important thing is I am supposed to take the difference. So go to the side, take the difference of 2 and 1/7 and 1 and 1/14. Since these two guys don't match, multiply top and bottom by 2, rewrite. You have 2 and 2/14, and you have 1 and 1/14. So the difference is 2 minus 1 is 1. Leave the denominator alone. 2 minus 1 is 1. But this was the difference between these two numbers, and the difference is going to go right here. And it's negative since this number is negative. So you see, you're doing all these mixed numbers, real numbers, everything the same way. When you have, for example, a decimal and a fraction, you kind of decide what you want to do with them. For example, one way can be a trick. It depends on the problem. Double negative and a positive. That means I'm supposed to take the difference between these two guys. The difference between 2.1 and 3 and 9/10. Now, what does 3 and 9/10? You can either make them both a mixed number or make them both a decimal. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to make this both the mixed number. 2 and 1/10 means this. 2.1 means 2 and 1/10. So I'm supposed to take the difference of 2 and 1/10 and 3 and 9/10. So I need to take the difference. So let's subtract to take the difference. 9 minus 1, that's 8. 3 minus 2, that's 1. And I can also simplify. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So you have 1 and 4/5. Now, the answer is 1 and 4/5. Now I need to decide about the sign. This one is positive. This one is negative. 3 is bigger than 2, so it's going to end up positive. I don't have to put a positive sign in there, but you just have to know that that's the case. So you can either use your calculator or you can do these things by hand. When you're going to the left, subtract a negative, or just you go all the way to the left, so you add those numbers and put a negative in front of it. When you go all the way to the positive, you add those numbers and put a positive in front of it. When you have a negative and a positive, make sure you take the difference, and then the sign is going to be governed by the bigger number.